Warning! 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 Warning!
Oh dear.
Ricochet, flinch. I can't flinch. Ricochet, flinch. I can't flinch. Oh my goodness, which one's better? I think Ricochet, you think high cal. What the hell we gonna do?
I don't know. Maybe some tests.
However,
Here's my story. I decided to line up opposite to my buddy Snacks at exactly 14 meters, aim at his head in the exact same spot each time, let him shoot me in the head, and then I would measure the flinch distance that impacted my character. So essentially, if the reticle moved from here up to here, I would measure this distance right here. So I could figure out, okay, with ricochet rounds, it flinches this much. With high cal, it flinches that much. With nothing at all, it flinches this much. The whole idea was that if I do this, 10 times and I end up flinching a bunch in this direction, I get a median from here to here. Or if I flinch over here, if I do it enough, I would grab the median from here to here, measure that distance, and I'd compare them. And then I'd kind of come up with this average distance per flinch. So one for high cal, one for ricochet, one for neither. Now I did something similar to this in my targeting mods video, and I have come to recognize that there seem to be a lot of situations in Destiny where movement needs to be a thing, or numerous inputs need to be a thing. So I wasn't 100% convinced that this would work, but I really wanted to give it a shot anyways and show you guys. Here's an example. All right, so the test results were not as obvious as I had hoped. Shocker. Even though I ended up doing each shot a minimum of 10 times, I just picked one randomly out of each grouping, put them side by side so you could see, and then we're going to talk a lot more about other tests that I did. So you might have noticed that one of them was slightly more than the others, but they were pretty much all the same. If I asked you to guess which one was which, you might get it right, you might not. The point here is that the difference is so negligible that I knew that either these things are bogus, like a lot of things are in D2, or I'm not doing it right. So we did a few more things. First off, I decided to overlay a bunch of these on top of each other, and then for you guys, I took the image, I cleaned up the crosshair, and put all of these overlaid crosshair locations on top of each other at different colors so that you could see. This is what I mean by example. See those little dots there in the middle? I'll zoom in on them. That's where the reticle ended up relative to where it started. Then I decided I'm going to actually color these all the same color, and then that way I'll do this over and over for the 3 scenarios. I'll put those on top of each other and see if I can notice much of a difference from there. Here's what it looks like. The weird thing here is that one of them seems to be slightly more flinched than the others. You can kind of see it's overtaking a little bit more to the northeast or top right direction. So what that tells me is that, okay, I've identified a difference, which means I did it right, but the difference is so small, which means this is all bogus, but I'm still not convinced. I don't think this is correct, and maybe there's just too many variables. When we're talking about that amount of distance, it was probably something that I did that was wrong. So we moved on to a couple more ideas. I thought to myself, side flinch is one of the worst things in Destiny. It's so severe. Maybe I can tell a difference between high cal ricochet rounds and neither if I measure the distance that the side flinch is happening. Here they are lined up in a couple of video examples. As you can see, side flinch is identical coming from all 3 of these scenarios. Even more evidence to show that it does not matter what the other person is running, but I still think this is wrong. I know when I go up against someone with a spare rations and my aim gets completely fucked up, I check their character after, I swear to God they tend to have high cal or ricochet. So I still feel like something's going on, and this is why we hopped on our warlocks to try using Well of Radiance so we have more time to evaluate what's going on here. Now the idea here was that if we're both in Well of Radiance, I have lots more time to shoot him, he has lots more time to shoot me, and maybe if for some reason things have to be happening at the same time, I'll be able to capture that, slow it down, and figure it out. But I need to go down a sidetrack because my mind is completely blown right now. We came across something ridiculous. I need to show you this. Watch this mechanic. When I get shot, I flinch away. I don't move my mouse, and when I get shot again, I flinch back to the target. I shouldn't be surprised, but it seems as though Destiny has some kind of mechanic to help you stay on target while you're getting shot. Shoot me. Shoot me again. Shoot me. Shoot me again. Keep going.
We're in hell right now, gentlemen.
Here's another example where you're going to see the recluse shooting straight up and slightly to the left and whatnot while I'm not getting shot. And then another clip while I am getting shot. And you'll notice that it pulls my reticle down to the target as I'm getting shot. You can see it in the bullet trail. So it was time I took to Google. During my search, I came across a wonderful video. It's called "This is exactly how unflinching perks work." Now, of course, I'm trying to demonstrate the difference in flinch between, say, Ricochet and High Cal because there seems to be this disagreement amongst many people on which spare rations is better for flinching other people. But I need to take a moment to just talk about how awesome this video is and how amazing this content creator is. There are so many videos on this guy's channel that are so cool. No pun intended, am I right? And I'm going to put a link to his channel in my video. His name is I Am Cool Guy, and he reminds me a lot of a content creator that I highly respect, Fallout. Seriously, this guy's freaking amazing. These guys do tons of really cool videos with a lot of tests similar to mine. So if you've been enjoying any of my content, you're literally going to love this guy's channel. Now, of course, I'm not trying to steer you away from my efforts to grow on my own, but this video explained a lot, and I'm not going to play all of it right now. But the main message that I got from this video is all around what unflinching perks do to normalize flinch. What I mean by that is that if we go back to my example and you see me flinch away from the target, then back to the target, then away from the target, then back to the target. You know, that's great and all, but that mechanic is traveling a certain distance away and then a certain distance back, and that can jerk the screen quite a bit. What his video is saying is that with unflinching perks, it seems to normalize the distance at which it goes away and towards the target, which can help you a lot. He also talks about how you need an input on both ends for this to matter, which explains so many of the issues that I was running into. He has a quick clip in there that talks about how sometimes his sniper will get flinched away from his target, and then as he goes to shoot his sniper, thereby initiating an input from his end, and he gets flinched again, it seems to be this combination factor where it brings his aimer right back to their head. Now I finally understand how I can hit a sniper in the head first, and they still somehow hit the headshot. So I think this is insane, and I just needed to go down that sidetrack and really praise how good of a job this gentleman I Am Cool Guy is doing on all of his videos, because they're definitely unique. All right, the expression you've all heard, the proof is in the pudding. I firmly believe in this. Sometimes you just have to forego the attempts of analyzing everything and just see how something feels. I hope to eventually figure this out, you know, from a numbers perspective in the future. But for now, with this video, I decided, screw it. I'm going to 1v1 somebody 75 times. 25 when they have a spare with high cal, 25 when they have a spare with ricochet rounds, and 25 when they have a spare with something else like light mag. Then I'm gonna do it again against somebody else and see, even if that seems like a scuffed test, is there a difference in the number of fights that I can win, or how does it feel, or something along those lines. And I used a Well of Radiance to lengthen those engagements for more of a feel. I'll show you one example of non-high cal and one example of high cal, because there's no point in showing you 150 videos. But what I will say is that high cal is definitely more difficult. I won the least amount of engagements going up against it, but it's really hard to nail down exactly what's going on. And when you're hyper focused on hitting your shot in an environment where you're just standing right across from your opponent, it isn't even that difficult to begin with. I'm gonna do my best to explain what I found when I slowed these videos down, but unfortunately this is all I can do for you guys for today, and I promise to come back to this topic again. Go. There's one key piece that I seem to pick up when I slow the videos down and I watch a bunch of them over and over. And that's this weird like warping of the gun. Now I must admit right out the gate that with an Elgato that can only record at 60 frames per second, screen tearing makes this a pain in the ass. But I thought I would point it out to you because I felt like in most of my high cal engagements, it was never this consistent flinch up and down, up and down, up and down. It always followed a pattern like that, but then all of a sudden, sometimes it would randomly kind of kick out like that and like almost like cover a whole circumference around the target in random directions, and it seemed arbitrary. And so I'm going to show you what I mean by that. When he hits me, it sort of warps the gun. Right there, he's hit me. Now wait for it. The gun gets kind of warped. You see how it's starting to like warp here? That happens a lot in high cal scenarios. And as the gun is coming down, it almost like, it just seems to create this non-linear path for your brain to focus on the recoil because it kind of notices this warp going on. And sometimes it'll warp the other way, and it is a bit weird. When I watch all my high cal videos versus all the light mag ones, it happens a lot more in here. So then I started to think back to that situation when I get flinched off an opponent, then they shoot me and it'll flinch me back to an opponent. It almost seems like high cal is pulling me back to the opponent in a slightly different path, or it's pulling me back to the opponent if I get hit, for example, when he hits me. It's pulling me back to the opponent almost like stronger. And then in some cases, I would overcorrect myself. Like if I was hitting 2 shots in a row, I was good. But if I hit a shot and then my gun started to come up here, and then on my way down, he flinched me, it was almost like instead of getting flinched back up, it would overcorrect. And my muscle memory that was so used to going down a certain distance to bring my crosshair back to my opponent would almost go too far. I would end up down here and then I would end up shooting him in the body or something like that. So it seemed like there was just slightly more finicky RNG things going on with the high cal fights. But again, I'm going to say this a second time, that in a controlled environment like this, it was still hardly noticeable. So I'm going to try and chalk this up to in the middle of a game when you're not super hyper focused on your target. I think it likely makes a big difference if you do have high cal, because these little types of things like this can make or break whether or not your opponent hits their shot when they have a lot of other things going on. Last but not least, I took a page out of Cool Guy's book from his video where he talks about doing tests without actually moving your mouse trying to hit the target, or your thumbstick if you're on a controller, for example. I knew if I did a test against an auto rifle, there's no way this mechanic could work the same way, where it's bringing my cursor away then back in, away then back in, from one side of the head all the way to the other side of the head, like the hand cannon Flinch did. So I'll show you the test against an AR with Ricochet rounds and then against an AR with high cal rounds. And you'll see with Ricochet rounds, I hit a lot more headshots, and I believe it works in the inverse way that's explained in Cool Guy's video, such that the flinch in Ricochet rounds is not large enough to send your cursor away far enough and then back in far enough. It's kind of normalizing what's going on. And when I'm up against high cal, it's almost creating this barrier around the enemy where the aim assist of my gun isn't quite enough to bring it in. So it's important to recognize the difference between going against an AR with high cal versus a hand cannon with high cal. I would say although the effects seem to draw the same conclusion that it's more difficult, it's almost like it's more difficult for separate reasons. But anyways, I'll show you these quick 2 videos and then summarize it at the end. Okay, so what did we cover today? Number 1, head on the flinch between the 3 when there is no movement or no other inputs going on, identical. Doesn't mean high cal is useless, it's just a fact. Side flinch, no inputs, no other movement going on, all 3 identical. Again, doesn't mean it's useless, but that's what we found. Number 3, we found a gentleman named I Am Cool Guy on YouTube, has a fantastic channel. His link is in the description below, and he taught us about how unflinching perks seem to normalize the distance at which this crazy mechanic called flinch in Destiny works. perks to help out a little bit in your gunfights, especially save snipers who are way off their target. And last but not least, brute forcing 150 tests showed that high cal is the most difficult for me to go up against. I'm not saying that is the perfect and best sample size out there. You can agree or disagree, but it was enough for me to recognize that there's some wonky shit going on with high cal when I'm up against it. I did not witness that with light mag or with Ricochet. Sometimes it would warp the gun, but it usually kept that linear path of flinch so it didn't mess up my aim. I didn't overcorrect very often at all, whereas it happened a lot against high cal. I'm sorry this isn't as conclusive as most of my other videos might be, but it's the best I can do right now. And I actually want to just personally reach out to I Am Cool Guy. If you're watching this video, I would love to collaborate with you on trying to figure out exactly how certain perks might inflict better flinch than others. Right now, I was focusing on Ricochet and high cal, and I don't know if I did the best job of comparing them, but working on something like this with someone like-minded such as yourself would be super cool. I recognize I'm an insanely tiny YouTube channel, and yours is massive, so I totally understand if it doesn't work out, but hey, a guy's got to try. It would be cool to work on a project with you in the future. For everyone who made it to this point in the video, I really want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the content. Please let me know in the comments any feedback, positive or negative, if there's things that you'd like me to do or change up for future videos, or if there's things that you like. It always helps the channel grow a lot when you let them know how you're doing, especially with the like and dislike button, with the subscribe button, with the comments, or anything like that. So again, I appreciate your time. And as always, I guess that's it. Peace.